past 8, full-time checks on our breakfast show, very first conversation session this morning, matters of the moment. And a topical issue will be the focus this morning, dynamics and issues thereof in petrol subsidy and price determination. There's no one who is not heartbeaten by the high cost and some level of artificial scarcity of petroleum products in Nigeria. And we have two gentlemen in the studio to analyze this issue with us. Dr. Chidera Eze, Development Economics Specialist, is our guest. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning.
And Public Affairs Analyst and Medical Practitioner, Dr. Chikezie Obasi, is another guest in the studio. Doc, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. And so we'll be starting with you, Dr. Chikezie Obasi. Can you give us an up to speed? I mean, you buy fuel, if not diesel, you buy PMS. So what is the situation? You have an idea?
I must tell you that I don't think there's any Nigerian who utilizes petrol today that is finding the situation funny. At the best, you can actually buy petrol at 800 naira per litre now in Enugu, with the exception of a few filling stations that still sell for as low, as I think 780 naira. But majority of them would go for 800, 850. So it's not something that is palatable. It's been a while, and you could understand clearly the impact it has on the economy. Thank God we have a development economist here, and it's biting, I must tell you. So many SMEs, so many micro enterprises, so many homes, are finding it difficult. If you take a look at the city, most of the time people that utilize generator when there's a power outage like we have across the federation, you discover that at night they do not put on their generators. And then for some small and medium scale enterprise that depend on generators for alternative power supply, it's gone down. And for so many people, business have slowed down because private ventures find it difficult. People that utilize petrol, they find it difficult to move around, and then putting the cost of the whole thing in the economy and business on the high side. So it's quite a difficult and challenging time, I must tell you.
All right. Dr. Eze, there must be a reason. I know the obvious reasons, but looking at the economic implication, what would you say is the huge contributor to what we are faced with today? All of them.
Okay. First of all, Nigeria as a whole has suffered greatly this past 1 year because of the fuel subsidy removal. Now, subsidy removal was introduced in 2000 by then President Olusegun Obasanjo. He introduced it to reduce, to fill up the gap between the local production and then the import of fuel. It was actually introduced to cushion the effect of high petroleum price. And ever since, there have been debates about removing fuel subsidy, money being spent on it, and a lot of debate. But currently, removal of fuel subsidy, I think, wasn't properly thought out. I personally think that policies like that should have gone through research to know the actual impact. Now, today I bought fuel for 900 naira coming to the studio, and I don't know what tomorrow goes.
But prior to now?
Prior to now, last week was 850.
You see, I'm even belated.
Oh.
Yeah, I want it now.
Dr. Chikezie, what have you been using?
No, I've been using petrol, but I filled my tank last week. That's 850.
Oh.
So
it's 900 now.
So you can say that.
It's 900 now. And what is the impact? The impact is that we spend more, and the inflation is high. We spend more on the things that we shouldn't be spending more on.
And it's like this cost is also impacting the cost of commodities.
It impacts the cost of everything in the market. I personally feel that petroleum price, PMS to be precise, has a high impact, negative impact on price of everything in the market. Let me give you a typical example. people that buy everything in the market has doubled or tripled in the past 1 year. Why? Because of the fuel subsidy removal. Now, people that buy things at the haulage cost, the cost of transportation is high. People going to work, they high. People talked about businesses. They normally fuel their generators for 150, 170, 190. Now they are fueling it for 900. And what's the implication? The cost, there will be increase in cost of things, what they are producing. If you sell at 500, you cannot sell at 500 again because of the production cost. So it impacts every facet of this economy. Every facet of this economy. I can't think of a worse time than now because of the way things are biting everybody.
All right, you said something about them not putting in the necessary research on ground. More like no research done, no policies as a result of that research done, and then they just suddenly removed the subsidy, right? Now, what are your recommendations? Because this is your field, yeah? What kind of researches were they supposed to have done before doing this?
Okay, let me give you an instance. The fuel was sold at 145 prior to May 29, 2023. And that singular word, the president is, president is power. That's saying that now fuel subsidy needs to be removed because of the amount being spent on it, because of the corruption in fuel subsidy, because it's been battered and it needs to be removed. But I personally feel that a research should have been done. It could have been removed, it could have been a gradual removal of fuel subsidy. I believe that Nigerians are not angry because fuel subsidy was removed, considering the cost of the cost being spent on fuel subsidy. Now, in economics, you subsidize on production, not on consumption. If you subsidize on consumption, I used to give this instance. I used to tell my students that would you prefer me having a discount in your lunch every day or in your school fees? They say their school fees. But if you subsidize on consumption, it has no economic value. But if you subsidize on production of something, people would generally benefit from it. So I feel that it needs to be removed, but how it should be removed should have been researched. It could have been a gradual thing, and people want to see that extra income being earned from the subsidy removal. Where is it going to?
Okay. Subsidy removal being removed, where is it channeled to? That's a poser from Dr. Chidera is this morning. But this conversation is ongoing, and the next issue to discuss this morning will be the matters on ground, the issues, the reasons. You just brought out one, which is the oil removal. Are we to believe that that is just all? It is one of the reasons. Nigeria do not have a running refinery, or am I wrong?
No, we are not wrong.
Is it Nigeria as a country or
Nigeria as a country,
we
to start
have 4 refineries. We have
running, effective.
we have 4 refineries that are not working currently. So we don't have a working refinery.
Does that not have an impact on the price determination for one?
Okay, let me give you an instance.
And even availability.
Yes, let me give you an instance. What is subsidy? I think that should be the first question. Subsidy simply means the government trying to pay for the haulage cost of bringing in these refined goods down. So they pay the haulage cost of bringing it down. That is subsidy. So now, if we have running refineries, we will not need to pay the haulage cost. PMS will be at a lower and cheaper rate. If it is from here, we are from our port in Warri, I think there are one in Port Harcourt, there is one in Kaduna. If it's being refined here, there will be no haulage cost. Just like import, we are import dependent, so we are also import this fuel. So the haulage cost is what the government actually pays for.
Your point is that the whole. No, I need to get something clear. Is it the removal of the oil subsidy that is the issue, or non-availability of a functional refinery? Which one would you consider the issue?
I think both. Both are the core issues.
Oh,
Both are the core issues.
All right.
okay. Okay, Chuma, go ahead.
Yeah, Doctor, I wanted to ask you, I know that factors that help to determine the price of fuel. For instance, in other climes, I would say in saner climes, the exchange rate comes in, a few other factors comes in. Do you think that Nigerians or the people in charge, for instance, the OPEC, do you think they go through these factors that are supposed to be in place before they determine the pump price of petrol? Do you think they go through it before they go ahead to sell what they sell and then people suffer? Do you think they do what they're supposed to do?
Okay, when it comes to the determination of pump price across the world, it's not a hidden thing. First, petrol is sold at the international market. Everybody knows how much a liter of petrol, a barrel of crude sells. Everybody knows how much quantity of liter of petrol you could actually, get out of a barrel of crude. And then depending on what you actually refining, the quality of the petrol. Now, OPEC is like, for those that run economics, it's like an oligopoly mechanism whereby they sit down and decide that, look, this quantity of petrol will be pushed out to the international market per day at a certain price. Reason is not being far-fetched. Those that produce it want to actually protect, their commodity. Otherwise, it might go to the market and, people would actually price it at a price that may not be valuable to it. So now the issue is, when you come, one of the rules is that you don't sell petrol below the international price if you're an OPEC nation. For example, Nigeria actually makes about 1.6, 1.7 million barrels per day now. Even if you consume the 1.6 million barrels, you don't get out extra. So if you want to subsidize and sell petrol 1 naira to your own people, it's your own money. But by being an OPEC member, you wouldn't actually push out more than the stipulated OPEC quota per day. So it actually equilibrates the price of petrol in the international market. So across the world, if you go from UK to US to any other country, you discover that prices of petrol significantly there's below a level that doesn't go below. So if, for example, that we have a weak economy, and like I know now, the price of petrol in America is about $1.1 per liter. Now, if you just oppose that to us, it goes about 1,600 naira per liter. Now we have a weak economy. Now, because our purchasing power is poor, we are feeling the impact. If you have a good purchasing power, like I keep telling people, and they sell it at $2 per liter, and you are making that money, of course you wouldn't cry. Now, what is the problem here? The problem is a right, like I think the criminal activity that goes on, within the Nigerian NPC and NPCL today. In NPCL today, that's the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited. The truth of the matter remains that the last time we listened to Farouk Ahmed, and everybody felt disappointed, because it was obviously clear that there is something they are getting out of petroleum importation. There is something that they are not telling Nigerians. When you openly told us that if you don't import fuel, you are allowing the Dangote to go into monopoly, and that was so. It was a negative cycle on us, because we know since 1972 to date, NNPC has been running a monopolistic mechanism of control and regulation of petrol. So when you tell us that if you allow Dangote to do that it's going to, create a monopoly system. So it became an issue. So many of us began to dig deeper. We now discover, what did we discover? Many of these people, either in government, in politics, have proxy, refineries across the world, where they either do one thing or the other. Now, at the end of the day, it shortchanges Nigeria. Why are you not going to reduce the price below a certain limit? Remember, you have fringes around the federation, around the country. If you remember, between 2008 and 2014-15, we had a situation where petrol were smuggled to Cameroon. In fact, at a point, the other countries were shouting that, look, why should Nigeria increase their petrol price? Now, what happened is that when you bring in petrol, there was a time we were consuming 60 million liters of petrol per day. Now, today, the figure we have is about 40-something million liters. Now, when the extra liters of fuel, where did they go to? To the fringes of the African nations, And what we see is not just subsidizing the petrol. We saw a situation where we were subsidizing for petrol consumption in other countries, in Niger Republic, in Cameroon, in Benin Republic, in Chad, and so on. Secondly, we saw a situation whereby some companies will not even import any petrol, and yet they have papers that they imported petrol, and government will pay for that. We saw situations where companies will import petrol and then divert the same petrol to other countries. So it was completely a corrupt entity and a right. So coming to the issue of what we're having with refineries, we are just discussing one aspect of petrol here. Now, some who have followed keenly with Dangote refineries. Dangote refineries have about 50,000 self-contained rooms now for the workers. Now, if you understand that 50,000 capacity, accommodation, it becomes clearer to you that that's the employment capacity of more than some 2-3 states, put together, just in one area. The Dangote refinery is like this 7 times the size of Victoria Island, and then you can understand that. If you see direct labor generation there, about 50,000, you will definitely know that the indirect employment created there should be going into 500 to 1 million persons. That's for just one refinery. Now, you can understand when you lose the whole job, those jobs that would have created for our people, and you are just importing petrol, just one man sitting down one place, would not, if you look at the chain of importation, employment creation, value chain to the system does not even exceed 100 persons. That becomes a very huge negative impact on our economy. Now, if you go back again to look at the petroleum, other byproducts of petroleum, we understand that we are losing huge. We have not developed our pharmaceutical industry, we've not developed our agricultural industry, we've not developed our plastic industry, we've not developed a whole lot simply because we do not have it. So if you really look at what's actually revolving around petrol and petrol subsidy since 1990 something, or it's on to when they start poor turnaround maintenance of our refineries, you discover that it is riddled with corruption. And what do you have today? For the 6th time, NNPCL is telling us they can't open the refinery. What a huge and a heavy insult on Nigerians. So assuming if there was no Dangote refinery, assuming if the Boas and Modler refineries are not there, it simply means we would have been thinking of continuously importing petroleum for the next 1 or 2 years, and that's an incalculable loss.
Okay, that's for the refinery. Sounds like Dr. Obasi is pro Dangote refinery.
No, I'm using that because that is one.
The only one we have.
No. Not only that. It's a pride for Nigerians. I will tell us that. Why? First, that's the singular chain refinery, the largest and the best, the most automated and the most sophisticated refinery in the world. So if we are not,
he's been accused of churning.
No, forget about that rubbish. I call it rubbish because we have petroleum refineries in UK that we import petrol, and we have a sulfur content of about 1,800 parts per million. So why would anybody come to tell us that it's churning bad petrol? That's absolute nonsense. Now, for some of us who did sciences, we understand clearly as you go on, you keep on refining and doing getting better. But you don't come down to talk hard on what a product that does not exist anywhere in the world. That refinery is the best refinery you could have today, the singular chain, the only one in the whole world. How could somebody ever talk down on such a refinery? And somebody will tell me don't blow on. It's not Dangote. That refinery is a flagship for Nigeria. Now that refinery is keeping down about 90 refineries down in Europe. So you can understand the huge, what the economic impact is, not just for Nigeria, to average black man, to average African person. And then if you understand the dynamics in economics, we have 3 things that develop a country. First is agriculture, second is your metal industry, and third one is your plastic industry, which your refinery is going to produce. So we are down with 1, remaining 2. So if we get the 2 going, we become industrialized. So I must continue blowing it. Anywhere I go, I must be proud. It is not about the signature card Dangote. Dangote, as far as we are concerned today, that company is a national company. Yes. And that's why the federal government under the last administration did everything humanly possible to see that company works. For people who may not really understand, if you talk about Ford Foundation, talk about GM Motors, talk about even Tesla, they just have the camouflage of one person or the other person. But the issue is that these are national companies. And if you understand that clearly, you understand why when there was economic war on 5G network, why America was against Xiaomi. Xiaomi is a company in China, but we know clearly that Chinese bank, Central Bank of China, has a lot of investment in Xiaomi. And today, if you know what Xiaomi is doing on e-vehicles, you understand why every Nigerian will protect Dangote refineries with the last drop of his blood.
Okay, but now, Chidera, he said a lot about the Dangote refineries, but some of the problems that we're also having is that there are people who are illegally refining, alright, which is the reason why you can buy fuel, but it's adulterated, like, it shouldn't be in your car, it would spoil things in your car, it's something that happens, people complain about that, that's because it didn't come through the right channel, right? Now, instead of fighting them, do you think that the federal government has gotten to a point, like the Nigerian economy, has gotten to a point where you could just gather them and say, I know what you're doing is against the law, but instead of imprisoning you, and you already have a system in place where you refine, maybe we can all work together, where you work under the federal government, and then we'll give you shares, and then you refine and bring out nice crude oil, petrol, for people. Alright, just refine them, because I know that there's a place somewhere in Agbani, I'm trying to remember the name of the place where the oil have to be tested before they even put it in. I've been there before. Yeah, so they test these oils before they churn it out. Do you think that the government has gotten to a point, in fact, Nigeria has gotten to a point where instead of punishing them, they should bring them in?
Okay, well, I think Nigeria has gotten to the point whereby you know the regulations behind, the requirements for these things to be the best. Just like when they accuse Dangote of too much sulfur without even testing oil. So I think that you have just like NAFDAC, you have a regulation. If you meet this social requirement, come on, you can do it, produce it. I think our problem is he talked about if Dangote should work, more than 90 refineries in Europe will be shut down or will go extinct. I think it's beyond NNPC.
Exactly.
There are other people fighting this refinery from being. So it's like a cartel. It's like a cartel fighting. I mean, how can he talked about being a national pride for Nigeria? I do recall that some years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, the CBN gave billions of dollars for it to Dangote. Yes, so it's like a national thing. So when any government that comes fighting Dangote, I don't know. Okay, a couple of months ago, I went to Canada and my friend filled his tank with $50-something. It's about 6,000 naira. Yes. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that 60,000 naira, $50-something is about 2 hours wage.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. They
Exactly.
can afford it.
They can afford
Exactly.
it. Now, but we are here filling my tank. I hardly fill my tank these days. Filling my tank cost about almost that same amount of money.
But
we
it's
can-
almost your 1 month salary.
Almost my one. So that is where the issues are.
Yeah.
Anything to reduce this price of fuel will be appreciated.
Right.
Okay, still on the conversation, dynamics and issues thereof in petrol supply and price determination, we'll be letting our phone lines open so that you, our dear listener, can join the discussion. And the numbers to call are 0907 275 9950. 0907 275 9950. Or you call us on 0706 815 8029. 0706 815 8029. Let's look at these petroleum issues together. Dr. Obasi, the president is the substantive minister of petroleum. I need you to review this. We have the former President Buhari as also the substantive minister of petroleum, and we have all of these issues. Do you think a professional could do better?
Okay, there is this issue of professional, and of course, you cannot be more professional than the president wants you to be. The buck stops at his table. In fact, let me be clearer. The doctor, the engineer, the lawyer, the police, the judge, not the judge, any other profession you can actually ascribe to yourself actually falls on the purview of the leader. If he decides that your profession will fly, it will fly. However, you see, when you are playing politics, it goes beyond professional entity. That's one area people will not understand. For example, I'm a medical doctor, and if I do not understand the impact of what a particular issue will be, I might continue shouting on the governor to say, let me give you a typical example. I need renal dialysis machine here. I need dialysis machine. We have a lot of patients. And I put that before the governor. He, as a development economist, will go to the governor and say, this is the policy, let's build factories, we build factories. And then the teacher will say, we have a lot of students that are out of school. The governor will simply tell himself, we have all these requests on my table, but I have just about £1 billion to handle this. So I must use one item at a go. So which one will have the greatest benefit or greatest impact on the population? And he goes, to take a decision on that. Is that based on that people would understand clearly that he does that, took the decision, putting into consideration what other professionals, have informed him. Now we have gotten a good bite, people may not really say it, on the president being the Minister of Petroleum. Let me say for the last, in the last dispensation. You remember PIA, that Petroleum Industrial Bill, had been lying fallow in the Senate for years. Because the president was there, he had to push that for that Petroleum Industrial Bill, to become an act, and he signed it. That was actually what made NNPC, from being a consumptive entity to be an entity that government will now ask, can you have some money? That actually liberalized the petroleum industry, that the price of monopoly should not, or monopolistic entity of NNPC would be broken. Now, many of us will not see that software of, in that area. Number one, that also made the federal government to look deeper to see the issues that Dangote had, and then giving executive orders, and that factory came to be within 6 years, of starting the complex. So you can understand that as aspect. Now, if a president wants to be minister, of course he's the man in charge of all the ministers. After all, you come back to give him information. But the only thing here is that probably he wants because of the economy of the country that revolves around petroleum, he wants the junior minister to have a direct access to him, in this case, not passing through the bureaucracy of either SSG or chief of staff, but straight to him, so that he can get up-to-date information. If you remember, in the last few weeks, the president gave an ultimatum that he wants to ramp up the number of barrels per day production, from the Niger Delta. And today, I think they're having from last we heard is from 1.3 million. They're moving up to 1.6. We know that Nigeria has over 2 million barrels of oil per day. So I think these are the impacts that they are doing. They really want to, to mitigate the bureaucracy. However, on the flip side, it simply implies that if a president wants to be, to be involved in the corrupt entities of NNPC, his hand is directly there. So if you have any problem, any corrupt practices, he will be the first to perpetrate it. That's what it simply implies. Because there is no middle person who is going to hold accountable. But for us Nigerians, I think for now, because of the nature of the volatility of that industry, the way it affects the economy of the federation, I think the president will be good, so that he wouldn't actually lay any blame on anybody. He wouldn't actually say, I did not get it. He gets first-hand information of whatever is happening in petroleum industry.
All right, Mr. The people are calling for the removal of this fuel subsidy. They want it to be brought back. Is that the solution? Because I've had this conversation. Everybody's saying, until you put the right policies in place that would, take care of the hardship, you need to bring it right back. Is that the solution?
Okay, so my take on that, the recent protest, one of the agendas is bring back subsidy. Why are people agitating? I've said this a couple of times in some places. People are not angry that subsidy was removed. That's not the problem. Nigeria spends about trillions of naira every year on subsidy. Trillions of naira every year on subsidy. And do you know people that benefit in those subsidies are still the elite, because they drive the most cars. Yes, they drive the most cars, so they are still the one benefiting from it. So I believe that subsidy should be removed. However, on the other side, why are people angry? People have not seen that money, the benefit of removal of subsidy. After 1 year of subsidy removal, no refinery is working. we've saved over trillions of naira, about 3 trillion of naira on subsidy removal, and yet up till now, no refinery is working. I think every day the NNPC tell us that by December, by January, the sixth time refinery is working. So when you say that the president is Minister of Petroleum, the other president was Minister of Petroleum. After 8 years, no refinery was able to work. So I think it's a colossal failure on their part. I think it's high time that we look at what is in there. If we can get an expert, I understand that because of the bureaucracy nature of that industry, everybody wants to hold it tight to themselves. But I mean, we are suffering. Should we bring back the subsidy? I personally think at this moment Nigerians are crying hard. I think what we can do, facilitate whatever Dangote is doing, encourage him enough so that he will start production, so that the cost of fuel would come down. Because I feel that cost of fuel is actually the engine of this economy.
And like you rightly pointed out, you see, we talked about subsidizing at the point of production. You know, if there is anything you can do as subsidy, why don't you encourage the other refineries?
Yes.
Tell NNPC to give them oil, to give them opportunities or crude oils. BUA is coming on board. We know BUA is going to be producing about 300,000 barrels per day.
So
They should come on board. Then again, think about why won't you subsidize issues, other areas at the point of production? Our agriculture, our healthcare services, our roads. Because if you have a good transport system, I mean, people shouldn't bother themselves utilizing their personal vehicles. Problem is that other mechanisms whereby Nigerians should actually benefit from these subsidies are not seen. And to make matters worse, the recent revelation by the president that 570 billion was given to the state government. Nobody understood that until he made that particular revolution. And that dampened the spirit of so many. We saw, even when you give palliatives, people actually, not the governors and the other leaders, saying they do not receive the palliative. So we need that impact from the point of production. If you subsidize agriculture and food becomes cheaper, because cost of inflation today is being skewed by food inflation. Now, if you subsidize that and things get relatively better, we are seeing things, for example, production of cars, cost of cars are very expensive. Why don't you allow more local car production, manufacturers to come on board? Now, if you begin to do those, Nigerians wouldn't bother. And then again, as well as we are concerned, ramp up production in other areas. You talked about Canada, where $2 could just be 2-3 hours, wage of a person. So you can understand if you go to that economy where you could have your one-day salary that can fuel your car. I mean, is good enough. So even if you like subsidizing, if you try going back to subsidy today, you only enrich a few class, a few political class. That's simple truth. So it doesn't make any sense saying let's go back to subsidy. But let's look at how we plow back the benefit of whatever we have gotten to the greater use of Nigerians.
And to add to that, for the past 1 year, we've seen how the executive have they live a lavish lifestyle.
Even talking about buying yacht.
Buying yacht, buying SUVs, private jets for people. And we have this mentality of palliative. Palliative doesn't solve any problem. When the president talking about giving 40 trucks of rice to each state, it should not be what is the impact? What is the general impact? We subsidize things at the cost of production so that everybody will feel the impact. Someone told me that it's better that the president gives everybody, if your account is below 50,000, you pay 50,000 to everybody. People will feel it more than saying giving it to governors to build infrastructure. So it is not. So I believe that subsidy removal is fine, but what is that money? We need to know what it's being used for.
Okay, I need an explanation on this. If you are on and on about subsidy removal, records have it that at July, the cost of landing of PNS is over 1,000 naira. So how can this be explained, Dr. Chidera? If you bought fuel, PNS today at 900 naira, what is the explanation?
Okay,
what is the magic?
The explanation, there was a revelation sometime that the government still pays for subsidies. So they haven't really removed, they haven't the total removal of subsidy. So that's why, because the landing cost 1,179. I know that in some states like Lagos, the fuel is still sold at 650 or 600 or 580. But in Enugu here today is 900.
And the local context of what we are having. We need to have a homegrown solution, bearing in mind, one, you can't utilize, and I will tell anybody that cares to know, you cannot utilize the ideas we have in developed nation. Those have gotten a static population. If you go into America today, America will not allow more than 500,000 persons to come into America because they have a tight population. So if you go to America, their population doesn't jump. They don't have a population growth rate more than 2 or 3%. Canada has 1.8 now. Some Scandinavian countries are actually dropping. So if you are thinking you are going to use the models that are found in those countries in Nigeria, it is not going to work. It has to be a model that is dynamic, flexible. Yes, it has to come from us. So that's the issue. That's the first thing is, one, people not thinking of how do we groom this system. If we think about that, you could see that in no distant time, this same potential the youth have today, you could see them in entertainment industry, they could actually utilize it in every other aspect of economy. You know, they could use it in education, in healthcare, every other aspect, but you need to tap it and tap it. So we have, for me, there's a solution to it. Secondly, we need to have encourage a lot of refineries coming, especially to petroleum industry today. We need to encourage a lot of refineries to come on board. Third one, we need to have our investors. You know, I think at state level, the state government should be able to encourage private investors. There's nothing like in CNG. CNG is not a wonderful idea. There's nothing wonderful about CNG. If you're able to utilize CoCam and they give a mini training to CoCam, you could see CNG being replicated.
CoCam here, right there in Enugu.
Exactly. If you go online, anybody that cares to know, go online, you see CNG kits that they are sold as kits online. So if you're able to get just a little training to CoCam, and an importer begins to import those kits. These kits are imported. Of course, they are some of them are vehicular dependent. Some of the manufacturers will write the CNG kits that actually utilize for your car. There are ones that you can use for more various cars. What is there in coupling them up? There's no difficulty in it. So first is, can we have our leaders begin to look into that? Bearing in mind that this does not have any wonderful technology around it. Getting even these so-called ones that people that are roadside our mechanic, because I mean they understand this very well. Training them and then giving the incentives. Totally. If our governors can begin to look at, I mean, when I'm talking about governors, because I am sure that they are very much closer to the operators, the IPMAN people, they can actually call them. Now, if they're able to get there are some of their petrol stations to go into CNGs, I mean, that you see in some other countries like Europe and so on. You could have alternative, so we could have issues that where you could, if you don't have petroleum, you could have CNG, and that will reduce the demand on petrol, the PMS. So we can actually have alternatives, and then the cost may go down.
All right, Dr. Eze, our time is spent. I hope you're going to speak less than Dr. Obasi in telling us your own recommendation.
Okay,
in 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay, first of all, Nigeria operates what we call khaki stress.
Yeah.
Simply means electing the worst people to lead. Why am I saying this? We have what we call, we prefer short-term solutions for long-term problems. A typical example, if a woman is suffering from cancer, doctor, and then comes to your office, and your first point of call is to apply makeup so that she will not look bad, she will not look like what she's suffering, and then put on a wig because her hair must have fallen off and all that. But you have not solved the problem. I think that is our major problem. We need to find a solution that works for us. During the COVID era, the countries were doing subsidies, right? And Nigeria, we started our own, and we know how it ended. We had no right to close down all those productive economic. We had no right to close down our economic policy. Because why? Because Nigerians, 8% of Nigerians are in the informal sector, and these are the sectors that were greatly affected. And then, what about palliative? Other countries, you open your door in the morning, you see palliative. Our own, you need to fight for it. And then some governors will be funny, we will hold it and all that. So we need to find what works for us. Everything cannot work. We should stop adopting policies that cannot work. Speaking of the CNG, I'm not a big fan of CNG because it still doesn't solve the main problem. The main problem is the demand side. Can't we, improve our train, reduce cost by improving refineries and then encouraging other refineries? These are the simple things that can be done, that people will feel the impact. But what do? We talk about palliative, giving 20,000 to 10,000 to market women, 10,000, and then sometimes the ceremony for the occasion
Costs more than the
it will be
amount
more than
they give.
of it. Something happened in Nsukka sometimes. The former local government chairman did poverty alleviation program, and then the ceremony behind the poverty alleviation program. And what happened? Person was giving her pan, shovel, and barrow and all that as poverty alleviation program. I felt it's like trying to concrete the poverty because you are not really helping. And when I heard that those things they are going to pay instrumentally for it, I wept. So these are our problem. We like preferring short-term solutions to long-term problems.
Issues. All right, thank you very much. That's a nice place to leave it on this conversation segment, the very first one on ESBS Sunrise FM 96.1 Breakfast Show. Good morning, Coal City, and the segment Matters of the Moment. We discuss dynamics and issues in petrol supply and price determination with Dr. Chikeze Obasi, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you, Doc, for being with us.
Thank you.
Dr. Chidera, as a Development Economics Specialist, was also with us here. Doc,
Thank you.
my name is Ngozika Mba, making way for Tochukwu Ugo to bring you Sunrise Sports. But we will reconvene at 10 to talk about conducting local government election, the issues. And we have an NCA commissioner coming here to address the issue. Good morning, Coal City.
My name is Chioma Agolana. I'll see you at 10.